I, 32F, have been married to my husband Anthony, 34M, for 5 years. We met at work where we both still work as marketing executives. Our jobs are demanding but rewarding, and we're happy with our life together. The only constant source of stress has been Anthony's family, especially his sister Deborah, 38F. Deborah is a stay-at-home mom with 3 kids, twins Tom and Jerry, 8M, and Lisa, 6F. She's married to Craig, 40M, who works as a senior financial analyst at a big firm. They live in a beautiful house in an upscale neighborhood, drive luxury cars, and Deborah hasn't worked a day since she got married 10 years ago. Despite having a comfortable life, she's always complaining about how hard she has it as a mother. From the moment I started dating Anthony, Deborah made it clear that she didn't approve of me. According to her, I wasn't family-oriented enough because I focused on my career. She particularly hated that Anthony and I decided not to have kids. She would constantly make snide remark about how I was denying her brother the joy of fatherhood. The real problems started after our wedding. Deborah began showing up at our house unannounced, kids in tow, saying she needed a break or had some emergency to attend to. At first, we helped because we felt bad for the kids. But these emergencies became more frequent and always seemed to coincide with parties, shopping trips, or spa days with her friends. She would just drop the kids off, often without even bringing their basic necessities like snacks or change of clothes, and disappear for hours. Sometimes she wouldn't answer her phone when we tried to reach her. Anthony and I both work full-time jobs with frequent client meetings and deadlines. We've tried explaining this to her countless times, but she acts like our jobs are just hobbies that we can put aside whenever she needs us. Our relationship with my mom was complicated. She had been battling terminal cancer for the past 3 years. Before I moved away for college and then work, I was her primary caregiver. Our relationship became strained when I moved away because she felt abandoned, even though I visited regularly and called daily. Still, in her final months, we managed to rebuild our bond, and I'm grateful for that. Last week, I got the call I had been dreading. Mom had passed away in her sleep. Even though we knew it was coming, the news hit me hard. Anthony immediately took time off work, and we started making arrangements to drive to my hometown for the funeral, which was about 4 hours away. We were just loading our bags into the car when Deborah called Anthony. She was talking so loudly I could hear her through the speaker. She needed us to watch her kids because her friend was having a birthday bash at some exclusive club, and it was going to be the party of the year. Anthony told her about Mom's passing and that we were heading to the funeral. What she said next still makes my blood boil. She said, "Oh, perfect. Since you guys are free anyway, you can take the kids with you. They've never been on a road trip, and it'll be fun for them. Plus, the fresh air will do them good." I was stunned. The audacity of suggesting we take her kids to a funeral, a place where people would be mourning, just so she could party. The kids had never even met my mom. When Anthony firmly refused, she started guilt-tripping him, saying we were being selfish and that family should help family. She kept calling and texting nonstop. When we didn't budge, she called their mom, my Mill. Soon my phone was blowing up with messages from Anthony's entire family. His mom's message particularly hurt. "Darling, I know you're grieving, but taking care of the kids will help distract you from your loss. Sometimes God gives us these opportunities to heal through service to others." I was furious. My mother had just died, and instead of offering condolences or support, they were trying to manipulate me into babysitting. Even Anthony's cousins, who we barely talked to, started messaging us about how we should be more understanding of Deborah's needs. We finally turned off our phones and drove to the funeral. Throughout the service, I could feel our phones vibrating in our pockets. When we finally checked them after the service, Deborah had sent dozens of angry messages. She had missed her friend's party and was blaming us for ruining her social life. She even had the nerve to say that since my mom was already gone, there was no point in attending the funeral anyway. The next day, while I was still trying to process my grief, my Mill posted a long rant on Facebook. She didn't mention us by name, but it was clearly about us. It breaks my heart to see how marriage changes some people. They forget about family obligations and only think about themselves. My poor daughter needed help for one day, but some people were too selfish to step up. They even used a family tragedy as an excuse to avoid helping out. This is not how I raised my children. The post got dozens of supportive comments from family members and family friends. Some even directly messaged me saying I should apologize to Deborah for ruining her plans. My sil shared the post and added her own comment about how some people, meaning me, come into the family and destroy sibling bonds. Anthony was furious. He commented on his mom's post calling out their insensitivity and explaining that we were at his mother-in-law's funeral. Instead of apologizing, they accused me of turning him against his family. His mom actually said that I had brainwashed her son and that he never would have behaved this way before meeting me. The whole situation is exhausting. We're getting calls and messages from family members taking sides. Deborah and Mill are telling everyone who will listen that I'm a selfish, cold-hearted person who doesn't care about family. They're trying to paint me as this evil wife who's destroying their perfect family dynamic. Anthony stands firmly by my side and has been amazing throughout all this. He told his mom and sister that their behavior was unacceptable and that they owed us an apology. But they just doubled down, saying he's being manipulated by me and that he'll regret choosing his wife over his real family. I'm still grieving my mom, and instead of being able to process my loss, I'm dealing with all this drama. Anthony suggests we go low contact with his family for a while, but I worry that will just prove their point about me destroying their family. Ida for refusing to babysit during my mom's funeral? Update 1 first, I want to thank everyone who commented on my original post. Your support helped me stay strong during this difficult time. A lot has happened in the past 2 weeks, and unfortunately, things have gotten much worse. Deborah and Mill's campaign against me has escalated to levels I never thought possible. They've turned social media into their personal battleground against me. Every day, there's a new post about family loyalty, usually accompanied by old photos of Anthony with Deborah and subtle, or not so subtle, digs at me in the captions. Deborah posted a throwback photo of her wedding where she wrote a long caption about how she misses the days when her brother wasn't under the influence of toxic people. Mill has been sharing those passive-aggressive quote images about how daughters-in-law are supposed to bring families together, not tear them apart. She even shared an article about narcissistic daughters-in-law and tagged several family members in it. The comments section became a forum for family members to discuss my supposed character flaws. Deborah went a step further and created a family WhatsApp group called Family First, excluding me and Anthony, of course. My cousin's wife, who was added to the group, showed us the messages. Deborah has been sharing screenshots of our past conversations, but they're clearly edited to make us look bad. She shared a conversation from last Christmas where she asked us to watch the kids because she had a family emergency. The screenshot conveniently left out the part where we later discovered through social media that her emergency was a wine-tasting event with her friends. Anthony's extended family members, who we see maybe once a year at most, are now calling us daily to explain how family should come before everything else. His Aunt Clara, who didn't even attend our wedding, called to tell me that being a wife in their family means being a team player and that I'm failing miserably at it. But here's where things take an unexpected turn. Yesterday morning, I received an anonymous email with a subject line that made my heart stop: "Your Sil isn't who she pretends to be." The email contained dozens of photos of Deborah at various hotels with different men, none of them being Craig. The timestamps on these photos span the last 6 months. The most shocking part? Many of these dates coincided exactly with the times she desperately needed us to babysit for emergency work meetings or doctor's appointments. There were photos of her entering hotels in workout clothes, supposedly going to the gym, photos of her with a man in a restaurant when she told everyone she was at a parent-teacher conference, and even photos of her checking into a hotel on the day she claimed she had to rush her friend to the emergency room, the same day she berated us for refusing to take her kids on short notice. The anonymous sender identified themselves as a friend of Craig's who couldn't bear to see him being deceived anymore. They included screenshots of conversations from a private Instagram account Deborah uses under a fake name. In these posts, she openly bragged about fooling everyone. She even joked about how convenient it was to have a naive brother and sister-in-law who would watch her kids while she lived her best life. There were text messages where she told her friends how she manipulated situations to get free babysitting. One message particularly stood out: "LOL, just told them I have a doctor's appointment." Anthony and his wife are such suckers. They actually believe I spend 6 hours at a doctor's office every Wednesday. If only they knew I was meeting John at the Marriott instead. I was shocked but not entirely surprised. It explained so many things: why she always needed babysitting at odd hours, why she would sometimes be gone for entire weekends claiming to be on business trips, despite being a som, and why she would get so angry when we refused to watch the kids last minute. I showed everything to Anthony. He was devastated. He had apparently suspected something wasn't right with Deborah's behavior but never imagined it was this bad. We spent hours discussing what to do with this information. Anthony felt that Craig deserved to know the truth, but we were worried about how this would affect the kids. While we were still deciding our next move, Deborah posted another rant on Facebook. This one was particularly vicious. She wrote about how some people fake grief over a parent's death just to get attention and sympathy. She implied that I was using my mom's death as an excuse to avoid family responsibilities and that my grief wasn't genuine because I hadn't been close enough with my mom in recent years. The woman who had been cheating on her husband and lying to everyone had the audacity to question the authenticity of my grief. I created a new family group chat, added everyone, including Craig, and shared every single photo and message from the anonymous email. The fallout was nuclear. Craig was completely blindsided. He had trusted Deborah entirely and had been working extra hours to maintain their lifestyle, not knowing his wife was using that time to meet other men. Mill's initial reaction was to accuse me of fabricating everything to get revenge. She called the photos fake and the messages photoshopped. But the evidence was undeniable. Deborah first tried to claim her accounts were hacked. When that didn't work, she said the photos were taken out of context. Finally, when Craig confronted her with additional evidence he had apparently been gathering himself, turns out he had started having suspicions too, she broke down and admitted everything. Now Deborah is facing divorce, and suddenly all those family members who were attacking me have gone very quiet. The same Aunt Clara who called me a failure now says she always knew something was off about Deborah. Mill is still defending Deborah, saying I had no right to expose her daughter's private life to the whole family. According to her, I should have spoken to them privately instead of humiliating Deborah publicly. The irony of Mill complaining about public humiliation after weeks of publicly shaming me on social media is apparently lost on her. She's telling everyone that I destroyed her daughter's marriage out of spite and that I'll never be forgiven for breaking up their family. Anthony is standing strong beside me, but I can see how much this has hurt him. Finding out that his sister has been lying to and manipulating him for months, possibly years, has shaken him. He's particularly upset about how Deborah used his love for his niece and nephews to facilitate her affairs. Craig has asked for some time to process everything before making any decisions. The kids are staying with him currently, and he's asked us not to discuss the situation with anyone else while he figures out his next steps. I don't regret exposing Deborah's affairs. She and Mill spent weeks trying to destroy my reputation and questioning my character while I was grieving my mother. Maybe this is karma, or maybe it's just the truth finally coming to light. Update 2: The situation has evolved dramatically since my last update, and the revelations keep getting worse. Craig moved forward with divorce proceedings immediately after confirming Deborah's affairs. He hired one of the best divorce attorneys in our state and filed for full custody of the kids. During the investigation for the custody battle, some disturbing information came to light. The most shocking discovery was about the child support money. Craig had been giving Deborah $4,000 monthly for the children's expenses, private school tuition, after-school activities, clothes, and food. Through bank statements, his lawyer discovered that Deborah had been using this money to fund her hotel meetups with her affair partners. She spent thousands on luxury hotel rooms, expensive lingerie, and fancy restaurants while claiming she needed more money for the kids' activities. Even more disturbing was what the private investigator found. On several occasions when Deborah told us she couldn't find a babysitter, she hadn't actually been looking for one. Instead, she had been leaving the kids alone at home during her meetups. The PI obtained security footage from their home showing Deborah leaving the house late at night and not returning until early morning, while the kids were asleep inside. This happened at least a dozen times over the past year. The PI also uncovered that several of Deborah's affair partners were married men from her gym. One was actually her personal trainer, who she paid extra for private sessions that never involved any actual training. Another was the husband of her close friend, the same friend whose birthday party she wanted to attend the day of my mom's funeral. Apparently, the party was just a cover story because she had planned to meet this man while his wife was out of town. All these men's wives have been notified. 2 marriages besides Deborah's are now ending in divorce. Her gym revoked her membership after multiple members complained about her predatory behavior. Several of her friends have cut ties with her, especially after learning she had been pursuing their husbands. The friend whose husband she was sleeping with publicly confronted her at the grocery store, causing such a scene that security had to intervene. But perhaps the most heartbreaking discovery came through emails found on Deborah's laptop. She had been planning to move in with one of her affair partners, a wealthy businessman who promised to give her a lavish lifestyle. In these emails, she complained about how her kids were holding her back from living the life she deserved. She wrote, "These kids are sucking the life out of me. I never wanted to be a mother anyway. It was just what everyone expected me to do." Her plan was to leave the kids with Mill permanently. She had already started moving some of her designer clothes and jewelry to her affair partner's apartment. She was waiting for him to finalize his own divorce before making her move. What she didn't know was that this man had been lying to her. He had already reconciled with his wife and was just stringing Deborah along. When confronted with these emails, Deborah tried to claim they were written during a difficult period and didn't reflect her true feelings. But the dates on the emails were recent, and there were dozens of them showing a clear pattern of maternal neglect and selfish behavior. The most surprising turn of events involved Mill. She had been Deborah's staunchest defender throughout this whole ordeal, constantly making excuses for her behavior and trying to minimize the affairs. But when the PI showed her the evidence of Deborah leaving the kids alone at night and the emails about abandoning them, something in her finally broke. During a family gathering last weekend, Mill had a complete meltdown. She confessed that she had enabled Deborah's behavior all these years because she didn't want to believe her daughter could be so irresponsible. She admitted that Deborah had always been problematic, lying, manipulating, and avoiding responsibility, but as her mother, she had always covered for her. Mill revealed that even during Deborah's teenage years, she had a habit of lying about her whereabouts and using others to cover for her. She would often say she was studying at a friend's house when she was actually meeting boys. Mill had always hoped Deborah would grow out of this behavior after marriage and motherhood, but instead, it got worse. The family dynamics have shifted completely. Those relatives who were previously attacking me and Anthony are now apologizing, saying they had no idea about Deborah's true nature. Some have admitted that they only took her side because they were afraid of being targeted by her lies if they didn't. Craig's lawyer is using all this evidence in the custody battle. The judge has already granted Craig temporary full custody, with Deborah only allowed supervised visitation once a week. She's been ordered to undergo a psychological evaluation before the court considers any changes to this arrangement. Deborah's life has fallen apart entirely. Her affair partner dumped her when the scandal broke. She had to move out of the family home and is now living in a small apartment. She's been frantically applying for jobs, but her lack of work experience and the local notoriety of her scandal are making it difficult. Mill offered to let Deborah move back home, but for once, she seems to be recognizing the gravity of the situation. She told Deborah she can only stay if she agrees to intensive counseling and takes responsibility for her actions. So far, Deborah has refused, still insisting that she's the real victim in all this. Anthony is struggling to process everything. Finding out that his sister was willing to abandon her children has hit him particularly hard. He keeps thinking about all the times we watched the kids, wondering if they were left alone before or after being dropped off at our place. Craig has thanked us for exposing the truth, saying he might never have discovered the extent of Deborah's negligence otherwise. He's already hired a full-time nanny to help with the kids and is looking into family counseling to help them cope with these changes. Update 3: I haven't posted in a while because we've been focusing on healing and moving forward, but I wanted to give a final update about how everything turned out. A lot has happened in these 6 months, and the dust has finally settled. The divorce was finalized last month. Craig received full custody of the kids, with Deborah having only supervised visitation rights twice a month. The judge was particularly harsh in her ruling, citing Deborah's pattern of neglect and the premeditated nature of her abandonment plans. The psychological evaluation ordered by the court revealed narcissistic tendencies and a concerning lack of maternal attachment, which heavily influenced the custody decision. Deborah tried to fight the custody arrangement, claiming she had changed and deserved another chance. However, the evidence against her was overwhelming. The final nail in the coffin was when the court-appointed supervisor for her visitation reported that Deborah spent most of her time with the kids taking selfies for social media to maintain her devoted mother image, rather than actually interacting with them. She moved in with her wealthy affair partner after the divorce, the one she had planned to abandon her kids for. That relationship lasted exactly 2 months before she caught him cheating on her with his secretary. The irony wasn't lost on anyone. He kicked her out of his apartment, and she was left with nowhere to go except a small studio apartment she could barely afford. About 2 months ago, Deborah showed up at our door unannounced. She was crying and claiming she had hit rock bottom and realized her mistakes. She gave a long speech about how losing her children made her understand what truly matters in life. She begged us to help her rebuild her relationship with Craig and the kids, saying she had changed and found God. Anthony listened to her quietly before asking one simple question: "Did you really leave the kids alone at night to meet your lovers?" When Deborah tried to deflect and make excuses, Anthony simply closed the door. He later told me that her inability to directly acknowledge her worst actions proved she hadn't really changed at all. Mill also attempted reconciliation with us. She sent a lengthy email acknowledging how wrong she had been to enable Deborah's behavior and attack me during my time of grief. She asked if we could try to rebuild our relationship, saying she missed Anthony and was afraid of losing her only son too. We agreed to meet her for coffee, but the conversation revealed that while she regretted her actions, she still expected us to forgive and forget because we're family. When Anthony pointed out that she never showed this same forgiveness toward me when she thought I was in the wrong, she had no response. We decided to maintain limited contact with her, holiday cards and occasional text messages only. Craig and the kids have moved to a better school district about an hour away from us. He hired an amazing full-time nanny who has become like a mother figure to the kids. The children are in therapy, which is helping them process their mother's abandonment. They're doing much better now that they have stability and consistent care. We see them every other weekend, properly planned visits that we all look forward to. The kids love coming to our place because they know they're truly wanted here, not just being dumped off so their mother can go have fun. Last weekend, Lisa, the youngest, told us she wishes we were her parents instead. It broke our hearts, but also made us realize how much the kids understand about what happened. Deborah has been working as a waitress since none of her former social circle would help her find a better job. She lost most of her alimony rights due to her affairs and the evidence of child support misuse. The court ordered her to repay a significant portion of the child support she had misappropriated for her affairs. She's been trying to rebuild her social media presence, posting long rants about how everyone abandoned her in her time of need and how she's a survivor of divorce. She even started a blog about being a wronged woman and tried to paint herself as the victim of a vindictive ex-husband and jealous sister-in-law. Fortunately, Craig's lawyer made sure she couldn't mention the kids or post their photos anymore. Most of her former friends have blocked her on social media. The wives of the men she had affairs with made sure everyone in their social circle knew what she had done. She recently tried to join a local moms group but was asked to leave when the other mothers recognized her from the scandal. Anthony and I have maintained our distance from most of his family. Those who supported Deborah's attacks on us during my mother's funeral haven't received forgiveness just because they changed their tune when her true nature was exposed. We've learned that sometimes the healthiest thing you can do is let toxic people face the consequences of their actions without getting involved. My grief over my mom is still there, but it's easier to process now without the added drama. Sometimes I wonder if she would be proud of how I handled everything. I like to think she would be. They say karma comes back threefold. In Deborah's case, it came back with interest. She lost everything she took for granted: her comfortable lifestyle, her children's trust, her social status, and her family's respect. As my mom used to say, you reap what you sow.